Sarah Pochin is Reform UK's newest MP. Now they're fifth. Would have been their sixth. They hadn't kicked out Rupert. And she gave her maiden address in Parliament, asking the first question that she is able to ask, and that is whether the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, would be banning the burqa. Let's watch it.
Sarah Pochin. Yeah.
Given the Prime Minister's desire to strengthen strategic alignment with our European neighbours, will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Interesting question and interesting framing. In the interest of public safety, I'm not sure the burqa is actually a public safety hazard, although it can be, which we'll talk about in a minute. I would have thought that the interests of banning the burqa, I mean, the reason that the French did it, is for aesthetic reasons, for cultural reasons. It wasn't for the reasons of safety. And so this is about the dominant culture of the country asserting itself over a new and oftentimes unwelcome foreign culture and saying you have to live by our standards. And she got jeers for this, obviously. And she got a lot of people saying, is this really what the people of, Runcorn and Helsby are concerned about? And the thing is, maybe that is something that the people of Runcorn and Helsby are concerned about. But this, for the question of public safety, the problem there is a utilitarian question. Is it just that it's dangerous? And if it wasn't dangerous, then would it be fine for every woman in Britain to be covered in a burqa? Or is the issue actually a moral one and an aesthetic one? Do we want Britain to be filled with people who wear the burqa? Is this historically what we thought the teleology of our civilization was going to be? Or has this been done to us without our consent, and now we're just trying to tinker at the edges and find some practical method of making it so that the streets aren't filled with women covered in burqas? Because I don't really want my country to be completely overrun by people who wear burqas. I don't want Britain to be an Islamic country, and that's what is at the bottom of what she is arguing here. Rather than, she's not just concerned that the burqa can be used, apparently, to threaten public safety, and if it couldn't, therefore it would be fine. What she's arguing is, I want to stop the Islamification of my country. But for some reason, she's not just coming out and saying that. For some reason, they're not allowed to just come out and say, I don't want Britain to be an Islamic state. And so she has to couch it in the language of, well, it's a public safety issue, really. I'm actually completely fine if Britain does become an Islamic state, as long as I can see the faces of the women. It's like, sorry, no, I think we need to just think about these things in a more collective manner, unfortunately. There are questions as to what the dominant culture of the country is going to be, and whether it should be able to assert itself. And I think that it should be the native British culture. I think, yes, it should be able to assert itself. But anyway, this is Keir Starmer's response. You can see the nervousness there.
Can I welcome her to her place? But I'm not going to follow her down that line. But
there we go. Keir Starmer is completely fine if Britain becomes an Islamic country. All of his hardcore rhetoric about the incalculable damage that immigration has done to the United Kingdom, well, women in burqas flooding the streets is one of them. That's one of the... this is part of the incalculable damage that he's referring to. But of course, he can't say that. And then he goes on to just have a snide political attack, which is just cheap.
But now she is here and safely in her place. Perhaps she could tell her new party leader that his latest plan to bet £80 billion of unfunded tax cuts, there's no idea how he's going to pay for it, is Liz Truss all over again. Although, considering I think she was a Conservative member when Liz Truss was leader, she probably won't.
Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And not speaking to the issue of the demographic and therefore cultural change of Britain that has happened without our consent, something to which we have objected. So anyway, completely pathetic. Of course, you have people like Lee Anderson saying, yes, we should ban the burqa. No one should be allowed to hide their identity in public. Again, I don't really think that's the issue. Don't get me wrong, this essentially means you can't wear a motorcycle helmet. Like, you can only, I suppose, wear it when you're on the motorcycle. It has to have a clear facial covering or something like this. I mean, what are we doing about kids on Halloween, man? When they're dressed up as, ghosts and goblins and stuff, and they've got masks on. Like, these kind of absolute statements that are trying to encapsulate we do not want our country to look like an Islamic country from the Middle East can't really be addressed with these kind of categoric statements. No one should be allowed to hide their identity in public. Why not? Why shouldn't I, as an Englishman, be able to cover my identity if I want to? What's the argument? And if the argument is terrorists do it, okay, but I'm not a terrorist, so why am I being punished for something that terrorists do? And really, there's a kind of cowardice that underpins all of this, because you're not really talking about whether you can see some old granny's face or not. You're really saying, I don't want my country to become an Islamic nation. That's what you're saying. That's why you're focused on this. That's why this is interesting to you. And yet, for some reason, you won't just come out and say it. Anyway, of course, she was jeered and rejected on this, and this is what people would expect. But the thing is, banning the burqa is not actually as controversial as you might think. Lots of places have done it. As you can see, in the red, you've got ban on the burqa in public places. So you've got Senegal, Gabon, and various places in North Africa. Got full bans. France has got a full ban. Belgium has one. Switzerland has one. Austria has one. Denmark has one. So it's not that it's just something that can't be done. Lots of places do it. The stands ban it as well. And then you've got a full or partial ban in some localities. So Canada does it. Spain does it. Italy does it. Germany does it. Russia does it. China does it. Also, is that Niger, I think, and Italy. So there are lots of countries that do that. And then a ban on sale of manufacturing. Morocco doesn't allow you to sell them. And then a ban in some public buildings or in the public workplace. Actually, Turkey and Algeria? I can't remember. Yeah, I think it's Algeria. And Tunisia also do it, as well as Norway and the Netherlands. So it's not like banning the burqa is something that's actually terribly outside of the bounds of what can be done legislatively and morally. In fact, many of our close allies just outright ban it entirely in public places. So, we just don't do that here. And that's all well and good. So, morally, we could do that. Legislatively, surely we could do that. We don't have to hide behind these kinds of sleight of hand. It's a public safety issue, maybe. No one should be able to allowed to hide their identity in public. Well, possibly. Why? The issue is we don't want to become an Islamic country, and that's one way of doing it. The problem, though, is really, I think, one of enforcement, right? This is something that should have been done decades ago. I saw Northern Variant posting about this on Twitter, and I think he makes a really solid point. I think we're way through the looking glass on this issue. If we were going to allow Muslim immigration to Britain in the 20th century, which is when it began, it should have been done then. It should have been made very clear then that actually we will not have burqa-clad women. The expectation, and you'll notice how this ship has just completely sailed, was that you're going to integrate into the existing British culture and become like us, rather than recreate your own culture on our soil. Which again, that ship sailed. And so we would find ourselves in a position where there are reasonable numbers of Muslim women who walk around. I mean, you'll see them occasionally walking around, and it depends where you go. But even in places like Swindon, even in places that aren't excessively Islamic, you'll see women dressed like this. And, okay, well, let's say we do ban it. Keir Starmer won't do it, but let's say Reform get in, and they join the list of countries that are prepared to ban it. What now? You've by fiat said that women are not allowed to wear this, but these women are deeply religious, and they believe as a true conviction that this is what they ought to be doing as mandated by the messenger of God, whether you agree or not. So are you going to enforce it? How are you going to do that? Are you going to get non-Muslim police to go into Muslim areas and forcibly take the clothes off of them? Are you going to arrest them and take them to the police station, charge them with a breach of the Not Allowed to Wear a Burqa Act? Do you think that'll make community tensions go down? You think that they're just going to just go, well, if the British government says it, there's no institution I respect more than the British government, and therefore I'll just make sure that my wife doesn't cover up like I think the Quran tells her to. Like, I just don't see British police enforcing this. So even if Reform managed to get into power and ban the burqa, I don't think it's going to happen. And I think that the communities that we have allowed to just live as they choose, completely as they choose, to create little colonies of their own, I think they're going to object to this in terms that might get a bit unpleasant, shall we say. And so I think this is just a total pipe dream. I don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think it would be very enforceable, even if it did. And I just think that we may have made a few mistakes along the way. What do you think?